November birthstones. At first glance, maybe not too exciting, but it's very possible there's more to these gemstones than just the warm colors that we see initially. Let's find out. Hey, it's your average jeweler again. This is where we talk about jewelry questions, trying to get a little insight into the mind of your average jeweler. And today we're talking November birthstones. I always get excited talking gemstones. However, November's a little bit of a mixed bag. Not everyone gets excited about citrine and topaz. My wife is a November birthday, and she doesn't particularly like these stones. So what is interesting about them? Well, that's what we're talking about today. So first, let's talk about what I think is the most common gemstone for November, and that is citrine. Number one thing about citrine you need to know, it's quartz. It's the same mineral as amethyst, or a lot of the geodes that you see, those big crystals, clear quartz, it's the same mineral. So in terms of rarity, it's not necessarily a rare gem, but it is interesting to note that citrine, which is the yellow to orange, sometimes reddish variety of quartz, is pretty rare naturally. It doesn't occur right out of the ground in those particular colors very often. So most citrine is in fact heated amethyst. Usually they're using lower grade amethyst, but it's the idea they're coming from a purple variety and they're heating it up to get these shades of citrine, your yellows and your oranges. And when we think about that, yes, natural citrine is incredibly rare. Citrine is very rare, just right out of the ground. But because it's quartz, and because we know how to reliably produce it, it's not a very rare stone. And that's going to be different than some of these other stones that we've looked at, but it also works to its advantage in certain ways. So being the same mineral as amethyst, it's going to have many of the same properties. It's all quartz, right? In terms of hardness, we're looking at a 7 on the MOHs hardness scale. And in practical terms, that means it's very good wearing in earrings or pendants. It's a very rough and hard material. In terms of rings, you want to be more cautious. Quartz is going to wear down over time in a ring, and some people it really bothers them, others don't necessarily notice it. The reason I bring it up is if you're making a big investment in a nice ring and you're spending a lot of money, it's good to know that citrine's not going to be a good everyday kind of ring. You want to be more cautious with it. It will wear down, it will abrade. Maybe the most interesting thing about citrine in comparison to other gemstones is its affordability. Because it's not that rare, because we can heat amethyst to get those colors, it's extremely affordable, meaning you can get a very large citrine for not having to spend a fortune. Another thing that's interesting about it is sometimes it does occur in combination with amethyst. You actually have stones we call Ametrine. Many times you're going to find them coming from Bolivia. That's one of the few sources they seem to find it naturally. But it's really cool. You have amethyst and citrine being split down the crystal, and you end up with a purple and yellow to orange stone in the same crystal. That is one thing that would be very interesting about citrine. I've already alluded to it a little bit, and that is the November birthstones don't particularly get me excited in comparison to a lot of other gemstones. My own wife, being a November baby, doesn't really care for it. And that brings me to a question I have for you, which is, what birthstone would be your least favorite? Maybe it's your own, maybe it's just another month altogether. I'm curious. We can't love them all, and maybe you don't hate any of them, but which birthstone is your least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. I am curious. All of that brings me to the second birthstone we're going to talk about, and that's topaz. Yes, most of the time we think of topaz as being blue, but if you've watched some of my other videos, we've discussed the reality that blue topaz is incredibly rare in a natural form. And most blue topaz, almost all the blue topaz that we have, is treated. It's irradiated, it's heated, it's not a naturally occurring color. So when we talk about natural colored topaz, we're talking about more of your oranges, your browns. Some people will call them smokies. You know, they're these warmer tones. And occasionally you do get them into nicer orangey reds and red colors, which can be very rare and much more desirable. Usually those are the more valuable stones. The point I'm making is that natural topaz is going to be very close to what we think of for citrine. And topaz is the original birthstone for the month of November. Citrine evolving more from heat treatment, as we discussed, and not being a common natural gemstone, came along a little bit later, and citrine's really more of just a US region birthstone. As far as practical characteristics go, it's going to be an 8 on the MOHs hardness scale. And initially that sounds really good. It's very hard, however, it's not necessarily a durable gemstone. Perfectly fine for earrings and pendants again, but in rings it's another stone where you want to be cautious, because even though it resists scratching really well, it does have a propensity to break fairly easy. It has very strong cleavage lines that run through the stone, and in most basic terms, what that means is that the stone did not grow in a sense where all the crystals actually connect like they should. You have places where the crystals end up with this line of separation, and if that line gets hit in such a way, it breaks almost perfectly. And that's what we call a cleavage line. Topaz is known for that, so you want to at least be mindful that even though it looks really good in terms of hardness, not necessarily your best bet in terms of a ring stone. There are some fun and interesting things about topaz, aside from the fact that you can get it in a multitude of colors, even though the more typical natural colors are kind of your warm fall colors again, is that it's known for being a slippery gemstone. Yes, not something you would think about right away because it's in jewelry most of the time, but it can take a really high polish, and many times it's been associated with being a slippery gemstone for that reason. Another interesting fact about topaz, it can be very large. Crystals are known to get tremendously big. And this is true of quartz as well, so citrine also fits in that same category. Both of these stones you can get very large faceted gemstones out of them. But there was a crystal found in Brazil that weighed 596 pounds. That's big. 596 pounds, you can get huge crystals out of something like topaz. A third interesting fact for topaz is actually it has a characteristic called pleochrysm. And you may have heard me mention this before. It's one of my favorite characteristics in a gemstone, and topaz is not the only stone that has this, but what pleochrysm means is that from different viewing angles, as you move the stone and as light goes in it at a different direction, you see different colors. It's not in fact a bicolor gemstone, meaning the color structure of the stone is not the same in that place wherever you move it, but you see different colors as you move the stone. A very cool characteristic for any gemstone. There are a few others that share this. Nonetheless, it's an interesting fact for something like topaz. If you're getting any value out of these videos, I encourage you, please like the video, subscribe, share. I want to see you get involved. I want to teach you more things. I hope you can stick around so we keep learning together. In summary, November birthstones still have a lot to offer, and some people may find them their favorite. I know many who like those warmer fall colors, champagne, oranges, yellows, even those different tones of red, and they do have something to offer, but realistically, their biggest attributes tend to be that they're a bit more affordable, specifically citrine, and you can get really large gemstones without breaking the bank. But when push comes to shove, there's more mixed feelings about the November birthstones than others. I hope you enjoyed watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Please remember to like and subscribe so we can keep learning together. Catch you on the next one.